A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now, when Umar radiallahu anhu embraced Islam, what do you think would have been the reaction of the mushrikeen of Makkah?
They were so terrified, and
yes, they were number one scared, because now these two brave and courageous people have become Muslim. So they were terrified, like you said. Number two, they were extremely angry now. No matter what we are doing, yet Islam is spreading. So now they changed their strategy. Now they knew that we cannot persecute them, the Muslims, like we used to do it before, because they have these two lions amongst them. Asadullah, Hamza radiallahu anhu, and Umar bin al-Khattab. So now they changed their strategy a little. But first of all, let us look at the personality of Umar radiallahu anhu. Umar radiallahu anhu was such a brave man. He knew he himself used to torture anybody who became a Muslim. Now when he himself is in that position, he has embraced Islam, he did not hide his Islam. He straight away went to whose house? Abu Jahl. Knocked on his door. Abu Jahl came out. He said, Ahlan wa sahlan, come, brother. So Umar radiallahu anhu told him, I have become a Muslim. Abu Jahl radiallahu anhu was shocked. He banged the door on his face and he said, may God ruin you and what you have brought. Then he went to and told somebody else, do you know I've become a Muslim? Why was he saying this? He wanted the same reaction towards him also. He was thinking, why should I be left out of this reward, this ajr? If the other Muslims have gained the ajr of sabr, I don't want to be left out. This was Umar. He was not afraid of anybody. So he asked somebody, who is the BBC and CNN of Makkah? Somebody told him, it is a man called Jamil. Anything you tell him, everybody will know about it in a second. We also have people like that who we call Bijamalo. You tell them something and within, before like you know it, the news is all over town. Every relative knows what you have done. So people said that is Jamil. So Umar radiallahu anhu went to Jamil. Jamil was sitting and he said, oh Jamil, you know something? He said, what? He said, I have embraced Islam. Jamil did not say anything. He just got up and he ran. He ran. And then he said, oh people of Makkah, the son of Khattab has turned faithless. Said he has become an apostate. So Umar radiallahu anhu was running after him. He said, you are lying. I have not become an apostate. I have become a Muslim. But Jamil did not listen to anybody. He was just running around announcing to everybody, oh people of Makkah, Umar ibn Khattab has turned away from religion. He has become an apostate. When people heard Jamil's cries, they all came running. And what we expect happened, they all started beating up Umar. So they were fighting with Umar and Umar was fighting with them. So this scene was being witnessed by Umar radiallahu anhu's son, who has narrated all this, Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhu. He said, all the people were trying to beat up my father and my father was fighting them and they would have killed him until somebody took him to his house. And then they were rushing to his house to kill him completely. Then this man appeared called As bin Wail Sahmi. He belonged to the clan of Banu Saham that has close relations with the clan of Umar radiallahu anhu, Banu Adi. And he asked Umar radiallahu anhu, what's wrong with the people? So Umar radiallahu anhu said, the people want to kill me. So this man, As bin Wail Sahmi, he turned to the crowd and he said, where are you all going? So the crowd said that the son of Khattab has gone away from religion. He's become an apostate. So As bin Wail Sahmi was a very rich man. He was wearing very rich clothes, silken clothes with embroidery and a beautiful gown. So he said, stop. He said, none of these roads lead to Umar's house. So the people understood that he has given protection to Umar bin al-Khattab. So they all went away. So this is the conversion of Umar radiallahu anhu. Umar radiallahu anhu's conversion to Islam gave a lot of strength to Islam. One day Umar radiallahu anhu went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and asked him, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, are we not on the truth? in this life and in the next? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, yes. We are on the right path in this life and in the next. Said, then why do we have to hide our faith? When what we are doing is good and correct, why do we have to hide it? Why do we have to pray in Darul Arqam and preach in Darul Arqam? So he said there is no need to pray in secrecy. The Muslims then formed two rows of people. One row was being led by Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib, the lion of Allah, Asadullah, and the other row was led by Umar bin Khattab, radiallahu anhu. And this is the way the Muslims, chanting takbirat, they entered the Kaaba and they started doing tawaf in the open, they started reading salah in the open. Ibn Masud radiallahu anhu says that the day Umar radiallahu anhu accepted Islam, we gained both strength and prestige. And he said, we could not perform our prayers at the Kaaba until the time that Umar embraced Islam. After that, we started preaching openly. They started reading their salah openly, they started reciting the Quran and preaching openly. Now the mushrikeen became extremely worried. Now they were thinking, what other strategy do we adopt? Nothing seems to be working. So they changed their strategy completely. Persecution now ended and a new strategy was adopted. And we all know sometimes if a person is your open enemy and he says something to you, what will your feelings be? The natural feeling is that you will not believe him and you will also say, no, I'm not going to do that. But if a person comes to you posing as a friend, as a well-wisher, and then says something to you, there is more chance that you will accept that. So now they started adopting this strategy. They sent Utbah bin Rabi'a to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Utbah was an elderly person, well-respected person, and they sent him to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with an offer which no ordinary man could have refused. Utbah found Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam sitting alone at the Kaaba, and he said, "Oh my nephew," with a lot of love, said, "Oh my nephew, you," and then he started praising Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "Oh my nephew, you enjoy such a high position in this city. You come from such a noble family. We all love you. We all respect your word. And you are one of the best amongst us in respect of lineage. But now you have brought something very strange." He said, "What you have brought is causing a rift among people. Some people accept Islam from a family, others don't. This causes a division in the family. So you have caused rift. You are ridiculing them. You are insulting our gods as well as our religion. You are declaring that our forefathers knew nothing, that they were on the wrong path. You are rejecting our customs. Now listen to me, nephew. I have some offers to make to you, and you can accept any offer." First thing, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ya Abul Walid, please go on, I'm listening." Imagine Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he knows what this person is saying, and yet he is listening. We sometimes interrupt people when they are talking. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never interrupted. He went on listening. Utbah bin Rabi'a said, "My nephew, if it is wealth which you want, meaning if that is your intention, why you are doing all this, you want money, you want wealth, then we will collect enough of it to make you the richest man in our city. If you want authority, then we will make you our chief. If you want to become a king, we will recognize you as our king. If you want to impress some beautiful woman, then we are going to give you the free hand. Choose whichever women you want and we will marry those girls to you." He said, "If you are possessed by a jinn, then we will collect all our money and get you treated. If you don't have money and what you are saying is because some jinn has possessed you, we will get you cured. So you tell me whatever option you like, we are going to accept it." So what was all this? Bribery.
Yes.
He was trying to bribe Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and trying to bargain. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ya Abul Walid, have you finished?" So Abul Walid said yes. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Now listen to me." And he recited Surah Fussilat. Hameen, Tanzilum minar Rahmanir Rahim, Kitabun Fussilat ayatuhu, Qur'anan Arabiyyan liqawmi ya'lamun. Hameen, a revelation from Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, a book with verses that are explained in detail. Surah 41, ayat 1 to 5. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went on reciting, and Utbah was listening very carefully. He was reclining like this, and he went on and on and on listening. Remember, it was his own language, and these are divine words, not a man's words, Allah's words. They were having an effect on his heart. When finally Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam reached the ayat number 13, and if they turn away, then tell them, I have warned you of a thunderbolt, like the thunderbolt which struck Ad and Samud. Utbah put his hand on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's mouth and said, no, don't read more. He said, please do not read about the terrible punishment it may fall on the Quraysh. Then he got up, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Ya Abul Walid, this is my answer to you. And now it is time for you to decide what you want to do. Utbah bin Walid, he got up and he went back to his people. And when his people saw him coming, they said, by Allah, this is not the face with which he went to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were people with farasat. Farasat means by reading the face, they could understand the feelings and the emotional state of the person. So this is not the same face. And they said that you have also been affected by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's magic. Utbah bin Rabi'a said, I have heard a discourse the like of which I have never heard. I swear that these words, his words bear a supreme message. I swear to Allah, O Quraysh, it is not poetry. It is not witchcraft. I request you, take my advice, leave this man alone. And he said, by God, if the Arabs kill this man, then your task is accomplished through somebody else. And if this man brings the whole of Arabia under his control, then his kingdom will be your kingdom. So Utbah was giving a very wise advice, but the people did not listen to him. They said, O Utbah, you have been bewitched also by his tongue. So Utbah said, then you do whatever you like. Their next strategy was bargaining. Another effort was made by the mushrikeen of Makkah now, an effort for compromise. They sent some people to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they said, let us bargain. For 1 year you worship our gods, and for 1 year we are going to worship your gods. In this way, if there is something good in our religion, you will get the reward. And if there is something good in your religion, we will also get the reward. Now these people's deen was a made up deen. They could do all this. But how could Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam compromise in deen? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed Surah Kafirun.
قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين.
Surah number 109, ayat 1 to 6. Say, O you who reject faith, I do not worship that which you worship, and you do not worship that which I worship, and I will never worship that which you worship, nor will you ever worship that which I worship. To you is your religion, and to me is mine. What lesson do we learn from this? In matters of deen, there can be no compromise. If Allah and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam have given us some instructions, we have to abide by them. There can be no compromise on that. Sometimes the Quraysh told Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, why don't you change this Quran a little so that it becomes acceptable to us? Bring another Quran in place of this, or make some changes. Things which we like, why don't you add that to the Quran? And things which are difficult for us to follow, why don't you remove that from the Quran? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed Surah Yunus, ayat number 15. And when my clear verses are recited to them, those who do not look forward to meeting me say, bring another Quran or change this one. Tell them, it is not for me to change it of my own accord. I only follow that which is revealed to me. and I fear that if I disobey my Lord, I will meet with a terrible punishment on the day of judgment. So this makes it clear that in matters of deen, there can be no compromise. In worldly matters, we can compromise, but in matters of deen, there can be no compromise. Another effort made by the mushrikeen of Makkah. This time what they did was, they sent some of their people to the Jews of Medina and they said, tell us how can we check the authenticity of this person who claims to be a prophet of Allah. So the Jews said, ask him 3 questions. If he can give you an answer to these 3 questions, then he is a prophet of Allah. If he doesn't give an answer, then he is not a prophet of Allah. What were the 3 questions? First question, tell us the story of the youth, the young boys who were being persecuted by the mushrikeen and they took refuge in a cave. Number 2, tell us about the person who traveled, the king who traveled from east to west. And third question, tell us about the ruh. What is the soul? What is the ruh? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the answers to 2 of the questions in Suratul Kahf. The first story is the story of the young men who went off to sleep in the cave for 100 years. That is the first story given in Suratul Kahf. And the second question that they asked was about Dhul Qarnayn, who traveled from east to west. So both the answers were given in a lot of detail in Suratul Kahf. The third question's answer came in Suratul Isra, ayat number 85.
وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا.
They asked you about the soul, about the spirit. Tell them, the spirit is my Lord's affair, and man has been given but little knowledge. So all 3 questions were answered. However, did they embrace Islam? The answer is no. No matter how Allah showed to them through signs, they still did not embrace Islam. Then another strategy was adopted by these mushrikeen. They said, okay, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we are the elite, the chiefs of Makkah. We are going to come to you and listen to what you are saying. But these poor people and slaves who are sitting next to you, you just send them away. We can't sit where they are sitting. So if you send them away, then we'll come and listen to what you are saying. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted them so desperately to embrace Islam that he thought, okay, maybe if I request them for a little while, they can sit somewhere else. Immediately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayat. Surah 6, ayat 52. Send not away those who call on their Lord morning and evening seeking His face. You are not accountable for them, nor they for you. If you turn them away, you will be among those who are unjust. So Allah forbade this from happening. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them, there is no class system in Islam. Rich or poor sit at the same place. They are treated equally in Islam. No Muslim is superior to another Muslim in Islam except through Iman and Amle Saleh. These are the only 2 things which make a person of a higher status in the eyes of Allah. Taqwa. Then when even this strategy did not work, the mushrikeen of Makkah went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they said, you promised that Allah will punish us. Where is the punishment? We don't see any punishment coming to us. And they said, why don't you pray to Allah to make a piece of the sky fall down upon us? Imagine the kind of impertinence on their part. It's like somebody making a dua. Why don't you make a dua to Allah that this roof falls on me? What kind of a person will do this? A very foolish person?
Yes.
You will say, this person must be mad to make such a dua. Then why did they ask Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make this dua? The answer is they did not believe in it. They did not believe that this could ever happen. And so they used to go to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered this in Suratul Hajj, ayat number 47. Yet they asked you to hasten on the punishment, but Allah will not fail in His promise. Verily, a day with your Lord is like 1,000 years of your reckoning. Meaning Allah is giving them respite, Allah is giving them a little time. When Allah's punishment comes, then nobody can divert it. Then when even did this not work, then they started demanding from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to show them miracles. They said, if you are really a prophet of Allah, then turn Mount Safa into gold. Make this valley a big valley. We have very little space for cultivation. Or we want to see that you should be in possession of palaces made of gold and silver and big gardens with orchards and rivers flowing. Or we want to see angels coming down and saying that this is really a prophet of Allah, believe in him. So they started demanding miracles from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but miracles are in the hands of Allah to show, not in the hands of messengers of Allah. Abu Talib by now had become a very old person. So Abu Talib knew that once he passes away, then these people are really going to be after the life of his nephew. So he acted fast. What he did was, one day he called the two tribes, Banu Hisham and Banu al-Muttalib, and he told them that they have to pledge to protect Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to protect them from these mushrikeen. So all the people in these two tribes, Banu Hashim and Banu Abdul Muttalib, they took the pledge that they are going to protect Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam no matter what. So after this pledge was taken, there was only one person who did not participate in this, although he was from the tribe of Banu Hashim. Who was this? Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's own uncle, but he did not take this pledge. After this comes a very sad period in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the 7th year of prophethood, and it lasted till the 10th year of prophethood. Now the Quraysh had an idea. They said that if the two tribes of Banu Hashim and Banu Abdul Muttalib refuse to hand over Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to us, then we are going to banish these two tribes. Social and economic boycott. They will not be allowed to live in Makkah. They will not be allowed to have any social interaction. No marriages conducted. They cannot do business. They cannot buy any food stuff. Nothing. They have to go out. So these two tribes were now banished. And in these two tribes, remember, they were not only Muslims, but non-Muslims also. But because of tribal affiliation and the pledge that they had taken to Abu Talib, both these tribes were banished to Shab-e-Abi Talib. Shab-e-Abi Talib was a place between two mountain passes on the outskirts of Makkah. They lived there. It was totally barren, nothing to eat out there. The women and children used to cry with hunger, and the mushrikeen of Makkah would not let any food reach these people. The only time when they could buy food was during the sacred months, the haram months, when the fighting was forbidden. Otherwise, any caravan that would come loaded with food grains, the Makkans would prevent them from reaching these people, and they would say, we will give you a higher price. Don't go to these people. Sell your grains to us. They were reduced to the state that they would be eating leaves of trees, and they would be boiling the skin of animals, and they would be consuming that because they had nothing to eat. It was a very difficult period for these Muslims. 3 years, not 1 day, 2 day, 1 month, 2 months, 3 whole years, they lived in that state. Now there were 5 people from the mushrikeen of Makkah who took pity on these people. The rest of the people didn't care. These 5 people, Hisham bin Amr bin Haris, Zuhair bin Abd bin Abi Umayyah, Makhzumi, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's cousin, Mut'am bin Adi, Abdul Bukhtari bin Hisham, and Zama bin Aswad. These 5 people were people who had some feelings in their hearts because they had relatives amongst these people. So they said, how come we are eating, drinking, living a comfortable life while our relatives are suffering so badly? So they said, they made a plan. They said, tomorrow morning, when all the people of Makkah are there, we are going to go and tear up that parchment on which, yes, the Quraysh, after when they had banished these people, they wrote down on a parchment that these people, these 2 tribes are being banished to Shab-e-Abi Talib. No person from Makkah is allowed to have any social or economic interaction with them. And they put it up in the Kaaba. So these 5 men, they said, we are going to go and tomorrow we are going to tear up that parchment. This is a lot of injustice, a lot of zulm. So the next morning when the mushrikeen of Makkah were sitting near the Kaaba, first of all they performed tawaf, and then one by one each one of them got up and they said, this is total zulm, we need to tear up that parchment. While we are sitting leading comfortable lives, our relatives are suffering. Abu Jahl, he said, no, we are, by Allah, we are never going to tear up that parchment. So at that time Abu Talib came out. He came out of Shab-e-Abi Talib and he said, look, my nephew has had a dream. and he has prophesied that that parchment on which those terms and conditions were written to banish the social boycott of the Muslims, that parchment is already gone. It has been eaten up by termites. So the Quraysh said, how do you know that? He said, because my nephew just told me. And he said, fine, let's make a deal. When we open the Kaaba, if that parchment has been eaten up by termites, then you release all of us from this period, from this Shabi Abi Talib, and let us enter Makkah and live here in peace. And if the parchment is still hanging, then fine, we will hand over Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to you. So the Quraysh chiefs agreed. They said, fair enough. So Mut'im bin Adi went inside the Kaaba, and lo and behold, what did they find? That the termites had eaten up the entire parchment, except for the words, Bismika Allahumma, in your name, O Allah. Only that much was left, everything else had been eaten up by the termites. So this is how the social and economic boycott of the Muslims ended, and the Muslims were allowed to come out of Shabi Abi Talib. So we will stop here. What are the lessons that we have learned for ourselves from this class today?
Two things which I have learned, that keep cool and calm yourself, however how intense the situation is.
Yes.
The second thing is, do not compromise on your religion.
Yes.
No matter how big
difficult
reward,
it gets.
how big worldly reward
Yes.
you have been given.
Absolutely. If on one hand we are following Deen and somebody offers us a job, a higher salary, or anything, for instance, they say to women, you just take off your scarf and we will hire you. What is the answer to this? No. This is a part of my Deen. How can I give this up? Forgo that job. Allah is there. Allah will give us a better job. So no matter what, no compromises in Deen. And number two, you very rightly pointed out, remain steadfast. The question arises, if Allah ordered the termites to eat up this agreement of social boycott of the Muslims after 3 years, why did Allah not order it on the first day?
To make them
To teach the Muslims sabr.
yes.
Trust in Allah, rely on Allah, and wait for Allah's command to come.
develop the patience.
To develop patience. And what do? We become so impatient. Something goes wrong and we immediately lose hope and we become dejected, we despair. No. These Muslims never gave up, but they kept on waiting for Allah's command to come. This is the meaning of sabr. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك آمين يا رب العالمين صلى الله عليه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.